Hey everybody, it's Scotty Hatlevig, and got another interview today. It's with my friend that I love so dearly, means so much to me, and I believe also too has made an impact here in Tucson. Is my friend Mike Scurlock, just an incredible man, and like I said, just got to watch him just through from high school, young adult, even to have this relationship today, and just see the consistency and character of this individual, and also just what is the impact that he's had in the athletics here in Tucson, but I would say even nationally and maybe internationally of the sport of football. But also just going to have a little bit of moment to speak into of what our climate is today. And there's no better person, I think, that I have relationship with that I feel that can and have such a great perspective, and a perspective that I honor and I admire so much. So Mike, man, thank you so much for hanging out with us this morning. And you're in North Carolina or South Carolina, Rock Hill still, right? But you know, just once again, I appreciate you taking the time, and like I said, you and Michaela and your family just mean so much to us, and so just appreciate it. But Mike, do me a favor, man. Can you just kind of just tell us a little bit of the timeline of your time here in Tucson and to where you are today?
Yeah, well, Scotty, we've known each other for a very, very long time, right? So you kind of know my history, but for those who are viewing in or watching conversation today, started off at well, before I even go to, I'm not even going to go to middle school, but how about if I start off in my high school?
That's perfect.
I attended Sunnyside High School. Right around my junior year, I transferred over to Cholla High School and finished there at Cholla High School. Ended up signing with the Arizona Wildcats for a scholarship, or received a scholarship to play football there. Played football throughout, obviously, high school, but had an opportunity to do a contract. I'm thinking now, contract as far as NFL, but jumped a little bit too far ahead. But had a scholarship for the University of Arizona. Played there for a total of 5 years. Redshirted my freshman year, but when I say played, obviously you redshirt, still practice, and you do a lot of the things that the team does. So I had an opportunity to graduate from there. But a couple things about the University of Arizona. It played defensive back, corner, nickel, dime, you know, all the terminology that some of the football buffs know, but just in the secondary on defense, and also playing a little bit of linebacker there at the University of Arizona.
And that was the Desert Swarm area, right? That's what we called it, the Desert Swarm?
Desert Swarm. I had a lot of great players I played with. Sean Harris, Tony Bowie, Brandon Sanders, Teddy Bruschi, you know, the list goes on and on for some of the great players I had an opportunity to play with. And for myself, you know, and just before I even jump into the NFL, the University of Arizona was really what helped mold and shape me to be the person that I am today. Because I think just during that time, you know, in the Bible it just says you can't serve two masters, right? And one of the things that I wanted to do was always serve football, and football was really my God, and something that I put forward everything into. But God really showed me that I can't have another God before Him. And so once I got that in perspective, everything for me just kind of fell into place, and was able to finish up very, very strong at the University of Arizona. Ended up getting drafted by the St. Louis Rams in 1995, and spent 4 years with them, and then ended up going on and playing a year with the Carolina Panthers prior to receiving or having a permanent injury that ended my NFL career. So total of 5 years getting a chance to play in the NFL. Very, very, I can't say enjoyable, but it was a very tough way to make a living, but also a rewarding way, because there were so many doors that not only have opened up, but opened up for me then to just be able to go out and speak to the community and just in different ways. And And from there, after graduating or after finishing up with the St. Louis or the Carolina Panthers, playing with them, took about a year off, retired, and really wanted to look into what was my next venture, what was I going to do next. And that was one of my biggest prayers. I was asking God, what do you want me to do next? And that was one of the things that, selfishly sometimes when you're in a waiting period of what to do, you tend to try to jump into all these different things on what you think might be good. But I really had to ask God, say, Lord, what is it that you want me to do? Because I know what Mike Scurlock wants, but what is it that you want me to do? Whose life do you want me to try to impact? Whose lives do you want to impact my life as well? And so he led me to a school in Rock Hill, a private school in Rock Hill, as a high school football coach for a period or for a season. And before I left for that one season, I was approached and asked by the administration if I would like to be the athletic director for the school, and remained there for about 8 years, and went on. And from there, one of my desires has always been just to be in law enforcement. I opened a law enforcement home. And from there, after I finished at the high school, I decided to go into law enforcement, which I spent 5 years with the local sheriff's department, and having the opportunity to be behind the scenes, working with just officers here, sheriff's deputies here in South Carolina. And latter part of my time with the sheriff's department, I decided to run for sheriff. And from there, after running for sheriff, while I was running for sheriff, I attended law school. And while I was attending law school, I had an opportunity to be one of the local magistrate judges here in York County. So, God has allowed me to go and experience a lot of different avenues that really what a lot of our society has been touching on today. Whether you talk about the NFL, whether you talk about politics, whether you talk about the judicial system, God has allowed me to be very involved in a lot of those areas, to where hopefully I can have some type of insight on those areas. But it's just amazing. You don't realize why God allowed you to go down certain roads. But yeah, that's just a little bit of Mike Scurlock in a nutshell, without going into all the great detail. But that's a little bit about me and where I am today.
Quick story. I remember when I might have been a sophomore, and I think you had just signed with U of A, and we were at a passing tournament at Cholla. And I remember you were like doing some stretches over in the corner, and they're like, everybody's like, that's Mike Scurlock. That's Mike Scurlock. I'm going to say, well, thank God that joker ain't playing today. I don't want none of that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that, because one of the things, and I think sometimes a name comes with hard work, right?
Right.
And when you say that when people say, hey, that's Mike Scurlock, well, there was so much that was invested, not only physically, but mentally, that comes along with, people may say, hey, that's Mike Scurlock, where it may be for them, hey, that may be Mike Scurlock, but for me, it's just, the work that comes behind the scenes to get to that point. But it's funny that you do say it, because there are a lot of players that I would run into while I was in high school. And a lot of the rumors were like, this guy's on steroids. Because during the track season, you're in a tank top and little tiny shorts. And so you see every muscle definition on your body. But what I think a lot of people were failing to realize that Mike Scurlock was up in the gym at 5:30 in the morning before school even started. And we just had a great program, especially at Sunnyside High School, getting a chance to work with a couple of the coaches there. So but it's funny that you say that some people say, hey, there's Mike Scurlock, but a lot of work came behind the scenes that I think for probably that to happen.
When they saw, I think, wasn't your nickname Mike Knock Your Lights Out Scurlock? Wasn't that one of the names they gave you?
Hey, I didn't hear that one, but I'll take that one. I'll take that one as well.
That's what I heard.
Right, yeah.
So you're welcome. It's been dubbed.
So appreciate that one. Now, I would knock your lights out, you know, as a running back and as a defensive back player, but I hadn't heard that one. I'll accept it.
All right, we'll get you a T-shirt. Hey, one of my questions I'd like to start out with is, who or what was one of your greatest influences?
Wow, you know, I think it's tough to answer because I've had that question a lot just throughout my career in high school, also through college, and also through the NFL. People have asked me a lot, who do you really find as a role model for yourself? And I think, you know, coming into high school, you look at, you know, players who were playing in the NFL, like a Walter Payton. I love this work ethic. You know, one thing I love to do for myself is just, I love the work. You know, I love to get in there and grind and know that there's a payoff. So Walter Payton was someone who I looked up to as a kid. For those who don't know, Walter Payton is one of the greatest Chicago running backs of all time. But he was one of the ones that I looked up to just in reference to just a great work ethic. And other individuals, you know, just different people, you know, just throughout my life have been influence to me. But one of the ones that, you know, and I say this with all sincerity, and it may sound cliche, but I think Christ is the one who I've always tried to model myself after, because of the work ethic that God allowed to use this person while he was here on earth, and just the stuff, you know, I mean, the persecution, all the things that he had to go through, sometimes a lot of things that he has gone through. You know, I tend to feel like, man, you know, I go through so much persecution myself. Man, I'm like, geez, you know, but you know, maybe I pat myself on the back too much when I say that, but you know, but just you know, there are people that you look to because there's, for one, you know, they mean so much to you, and I think when you're able to dive into their life and really study and learn about them, there's, you know, I think that's the reason why I think looking at a Walter Payton, who has just a great work ethic, and then Christ, who's kind of set the mold and the model for how we should live our daily lives. And so I believe that, you know, again, there are a number of other people, but you know, Christ, I think, is the foundation of who I am as a person today.
With you, kind of like you brought up, let's say Walter Payton, and one question, what do you see different today from when you started even participating in sports, athletics, training, whether it's the industry of sports? What do you see different today from when you were back then? And because I know you still have probably some contacts and relationship with people, but what do you see today that's different, good or bad?
Yeah, well, the good thing I see today is just social media, right? Social media has engulfed our world, and what happens is so a lot of players now that, you know, you become a household name, you know, immediately overseas if and when you do great things. If you do bad things as well, but if you do great things, talking about the positive things in sports. So the marketing side of it is just that much greater than it was when I played. You have the Facebook, you have all the Snapchat, you have all any type of social media that you can think of that's out there. Your YouTube, where people can just, you know, pull you up in an instant or a second. I think that's one of the things that I've seen a great positive side to the marketing side. Also, I think how to get bigger, better, faster. That's always been a terminology that I think that all of us have used over the years: bigger, better, faster. And a lot of the athletes have done that. You know, they've gotten bigger, better, and faster over the years. You know, and it's so. But I think it comes down to also to the commitment and the work ethic. You know, and also seeing like a Bill Belichick, you know, who doesn't look at just the size of a person. He looks at the heart of the person and the capability of that athlete of being able to get the job done. Normally, if you think about it, you have you have in the past you would have linebackers who all have to be 6 foot tall or 6'3" and 240 pounds, and but now that's not what it is today. The makeup of sports, I would say, as a whole, I think most coaches are looking for how can they be the most successful that they can be, and that's by bringing in the best athletes that they know to bring in, not by having just someone who fits a particular mold.
Right.
So those are some of the more positive things I see. But there's just so many things I think you can grab. Especially within the NFL. Me having an opportunity to play in the NFL, they got rid of what's called wedge. You don't no longer have to run down and break up wedge on kickoff. They're trying to, I think, a great thing is trying to protect the players more. So there are a number of things, I think, that the player involvement within the community. So there's so many things that a lot of positives that have come out of it that just a lot of good stuff.
Well, I think probably, and you said kind of theme: discipline, work ethic, your faith. What has been some of the greatest? Some of these guys I've asked, whether it's been the gym or the training, how has sports been such a great metaphor in your life, a working metaphor in your life?
Well, it just it provides a great work ethic. And integrity. Those are the things that I've taken from playing sports pretty much my whole life. Accountability. All these things that to have in a work environment. I learned it strictly from just playing sports. A leadership. How do you conduct yourself as a leader? How do you associate with those who you work with, your coworkers? So there are a lot of things that have come along with being able to just compete, not only at the lowest level, but also at the highest level. The lowest level, you learn a lot of just fundamental things. And then when you get to the top level, you're learning anywhere from, continuing to learn your work ethic, and you're also learning how to be a business person as well, because within professional sports, it's a business as well. So there are a lot of aspects that you take from playing sports as a whole, and that's and I've carried that over into a lot of what I've done and what I do today.
Well, first of all, thank you for all that. But like I said, lastly, what I'd like to. It's funny, it's you're a picture of diversity for me. Just here's why I say I look at one, like I said, African-American, black man, but also two, being a part of judicial law enforcement. Your wife, from Austria, she's white, and just your family, and which I think is so beautiful. I think that's just such a great picture to me. It's just man, that's like an embodiment, right? So with your lens, in the way, and I think even true when I went to go visit you out there, and we had a little bit of dialogue of just some of the things racially that you see and you've experienced or just and I think somewhat, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but sometimes where we are in Tucson, it's a little that lens is a little bit not the same, right? I think not that people don't experience things, but from the demographics and what the communities that are built around, black, white, Hispanic, it's so much different, right? What would you say, and really speak freely to whatever you would love to say in a moment like this, coming from your lens, with where today is, and obviously there's the moment with George Floyd, and I know there's the Black Lives Matter and those different things, but what is Mike Scurlock, his lens in this moment, our time and space of right now? What's in your heart?
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate you. I probably should have shared that as well. My family, have 4 children and having a wife who is of another race, who is from Austria, who's Caucasian as well. So again, that's another perspective that I do hopefully bring to the table when I have any discussion. But just where we are, I think, as a society and as a country today, I do want to say that after I've seen the tragic situation or the tragic event that took place with George Floyd and the officer or several officers, just like many Americans, people throughout the world, you just hurt and broken in how someone could not value someone else's life the way the officer did. And the other side too, I look at it that George Floyd, who no one, or at least I didn't know, but some obviously his family members, his friends knew of him, but I didn't, right? But when I look at someone who now has become a household name, you think about how many people go through their whole life on trying to make themselves, relevant, or trying to be a world changer, or trying to be an impact in the world. And obviously, I don't think anybody would wish this on anyone, and I think, but seeing what George Floyd has been able to do just through his death, that he's become a household name, and he has done a great thing, I believe, changing our world. And that's one thing that I look at myself. I'm like, man, Lord, I want to be a world changer. I want to be able to do great things throughout the world, not just where I'm in this little tiny pocket, right? And here, God has taken someone like George Floyd and allowed this person to change the world. And one of the great things I've seen that has come out of this is that you have truly seen a lot of the people within the white community come out and support the protest of what they feel social injustice has been from law enforcement, for law enforcement for brutality of police officers, right, on Black Americans. And so, but it's a history of this. You can look back on the civil rights movement, but I think one of the positive things that have come out of this is that, or a number of positive things, but especially one is just being able to see white people get involved as much as they've gotten involved and be part of the movement and want to see a lot of the racial divide be brought together and for dialogue to happen for many people, because a lot of times, most people don't want to talk about the past. They don't want to talk about the things that they really may think about a different person. But now, even my wife and I, we've had more conversation with some of our white friends lately than we have in the past. And some of the things that they're just not, they weren't privy to. They were oblivious to. Right. They were ignorant to. Right. Just not knowing or having an understanding what it means to be a Black person in America, or just to be a Black person in general. So it's opened up a lot of dialogue between Blacks and whites, and like I said, I just see a lot of positive that has come out of Mr. Floyd's death.
What would be to encourage me? Let's say you're talking to me in this moment, like what would you say to me or whoever that ever watches that, what in this moment, what would be some of the best things for us to do, for me, people in my position, or I know people can't figure me out. They can't figure out Mexican, Italian, white, or whatever I am. But what would you say to me? Hey, Scotty, man, this is how you could play a part. What would that be?
I would just tell Scotty just to continue to be you. Mm-hmm. I've known you for years, and I've always known you to be you. I don't think that when I say this, you kind of get beat up in the media before when you say I don't see color, but I don't think that. I think we all tend to see, you and I, especially, I think we tend to see ignorance before we see a person's color, right? I think we tend to see racism before we see a person's ignorance. And so for me, what I would tell you is just to continue to do what you've been doing, continue to be who you are. And I heard someone say something earlier today. It said, when you see something, and you know it's wrong, don't be afraid to speak up. And I think sometimes that people can be so involved in their job or in their community, they can, maybe you're receiving a particular paycheck for a certain job that you do, and you're afraid to lose money when you know that there's something wrong. Well, guess what? It's okay still to sacrifice, some of those things in order for you to, for the cause of bettering those around you. So I would encourage those as well. A lot of times the pressure is because you don't want to be different. It's a little bit uncomfortable to confront controversy when you should confront it. But what I would encourage you or anybody else to do, well, I can't say you, Scotty, because like I said, I wouldn't even doubt that you would do that. But I think you being a voice there on the West Coast, being able to share with your brothers and your sisters, say, listen, or friends, just say, listen, hey, that was wrong, so you should speak up. Or when someone comes to you and say, hey, how do I address this issue or this situation? I think just, doing the right thing, to do the right.
Man, I'll tell you what, man, I love you, dude, like nobody's business. And I just want to say thank you once again. I appreciate your time, and I'll say farewell to that side. We'll tap just before we hang up, but I want to catch base with you. But man, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you. And like I said, I'm a Scurlock fan, 100%, the whole family. And I just want to say thank you, bro. Appreciate you, man.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I've always enjoyed talking with you. Appreciate you coming out. I think last year before that, just spending a week with us up here and just hanging out. But love you guys, and I look forward to catching up again.
All right, man. Thanks, Mike. I'll say goodbye over
yeah,
here.
For sure. You guys have a good one.